Picture this. You're driving to work. You're already running 5 minutes late. And then that little orange light blinks on. The check engine light. Your stomach drops. You know the fix is probably $300, maybe less. You check your bank app under the steering wheel at a red light, and you've got $40 until Friday. So you do what millions of people do every single day. You turn the radio up. You ignore it. You pray. 2 months later, that ignored $300 problem has eaten through your transmission. You're on the side of the highway. The tow truck is $200. The repair is $2,000. And because you missed the shifts while the car was in the shop, you lost another $300 in wages. A $300 problem became a $2,500 catastrophe. And here's the thing, that's not bad luck. That's not irresponsibility. That is mathematics. That is a calculable, measurable, predictable tax that gets charged to anyone who doesn't have money. And almost nobody talks about it. My name is Gaga, and today we're going to tear apart one of the most uncomfortable truths in personal finance. The fact that being broke is not just painful, it is actively, measurably, provably expensive. The less money you have, the more everything costs. And once you understand exactly how that works, you'll never look at your finances the same way again. If this sounds like your life or someone you love, stick around. Because understanding this trap is the first step to escaping it. And hit subscribe. Because we break down the hidden mechanics of money every single week. Let me introduce you to the most important economic concept you never learned in school. It's called the Boots theory of socioeconomic unfairness. And it didn't come from a university economics department or a Wall Street think tank. It came from a fantasy novel. A British author named Terry Pratchett wrote a character, a police captain named Sam Vimes, who explained the wealth gap better than most PhD economists ever have. And the logic is so clean, so brutal, so obvious once you hear it, that you'll wonder why it isn't taught in every high school in the country. Here it is. Two men need boots. One is wealthy. One is poor. The wealthy man spends $50 on a quality pair, genuine leather, properly stitched, built to last. Those boots carry him through 10 winters without a single problem. Cost per year, $5. The poor man cannot afford $50. He has $10. So he buys the cheap pair, thin soles, fake leather, held together by optimism. They fall apart in a season. So, next year, another $10. And the year after, another $10. Over 10 years, the poor man spends $100 on boots. Double what the rich man spent. And he still has wet feet. That is the Boots theory. The less money you have, the more you pay per unit, per year, per experience, for almost everything. Poverty is not just an absence of money. It is a surcharge on your existence. Now, you might be thinking, okay, that's a clever story, but Boots, come on, let me show you how this plays out in your actual life in 2025 in ways you probably haven't noticed because they become so normal they're invisible. The toilet paper example, I know this sounds small. Stay with me. If you have $50 in disposable cash, you go to Costco. You buy the 40H roll mega pack. Your costs per roll are down 50 cents. You're set for 3 months. But if you're living paycheck to paycheck, you don't have $50 to lock into a toilet paper investment. You have for dollars. So you go to the corner store and grab the 4-pack. Cost per roll, $1. 50, you just paid 3 times more for the exact same product because you couldn't afford the bulk price. This is what economists call the poverty premium, and it doesn't stop at toilet paper. It applies to laundry detergent, cooking oil, diapers, batteries, canned food, vitamins, every non-perishable good in your home. If you can afford more upfront, you pay less per unit. If you can't, you pay the premium every time for your entire life. And here's where it gets genuinely enraging. Your effective inflation rate is higher than a wealthy person's inflation rate. Because they're insulated by bulk buying and economies of scale. You're not. When prices go up, they go up more for you proportionally, and they do for someone with capital. The system isn't neutral. It charges you extra for not having money. The banking trap. Now let's talk about the institution. That's supposed to help you manage money. Your bank, if you keep $10, zero in your account, your bank loves you. No monthly fees, free checks, maybe a rewards program. They treat you like a valued customer. Now imagine you're struggling. You've got $20 in your account, a subscription you forgot about, Netflix, a gym, something hits for $25. You go $5 into the negative. Does your bank call you, cover you, work with you? No, they charge you a $35 overdraft fee. Let's do the math on that transaction. You effectively borrowed $5 for roughly 24 hours. It cost you $35. That is an annual percentage rate, an APR of over 700%. If a street-level loan shark charged you 700% APR, they'd be arrested. When a bank does it, it's called standard overdraft protection. And last year alone, American banks collected billions of dollars in overdraft fees, almost entirely from people with less than $1, zero in their accounts. The wealthy earn interest on their money. The poor pay interest on their money. It is a direct, ongoing wealth transfer from the bottom to the top. Dressed up in the language of service fees and account terms, that's not an accident. That's a business model. The scarcity mindset. When poverty costs you, your brain hears the part that most financial gurus completely ignore. When they tell broke people to just make better decisions. There is a documented psychological phenomenon called scarcity mindset. When researchers at Princeton and Harvard studied people under genuine financial stress, people who genuinely didn't know how they'd pay rent, they found something remarkable. Financial stress consumed so much cognitive bandwidth that participants functionally lost the equivalent of 13 IQ points. 13 points. That's the same cognitive drop as missing an entire night of sleep. Gone. Not because they were less intelligent. Because their brains were running an emergency survival loop in the background 24 hours a day. When your mind is occupied with how do I get through this week, there is literally less processing power available for long-term planning, strategic thinking, or impulse control. This is why people in financial stress make decisions that look irrational from the outside. Taking the 400% APR payday loan, buying lottery tickets, choosing fast food over cooking. It's not stupidity. It's cognitive depletion caused by chronic financial anxiety. The Boots theory applies to mental energy just as much as money. A wealthy man doesn't just save $50 on boots. He saves 10 years of worrying about his feet. That freed up mental energy goes into building wealth. The poor man's energy goes into surviving Tuesday. We've talked about small purchases. Now let's scale this up, because the Boots theory doesn't stay small. It compounds with every major financial decision you ever make. Cars, the premium gets expensive in most of America. You need a car to work. There's no subway coming to save you. A person with savings and decent credit buys a 3-year-old Toyota or Honda, maybe $18,000 to $20 to $1,000. They get a loan at 5% interest. That car, with basic maintenance, runs reliably for another decade. Total cost of ownership, manageable, predictable, boring in the best way. Now look at someone with damaged credit and no savings who still needs to get to work on Monday. They go to a buy here, Pay here dealership. The car on the lot. A high mileage vehicle genuinely worth maybe $4,000 on the open market gets sold to them for $8,000 because the dealership knows they have no options. And no options means no negotiating power. Then, because their credit score is low, the interest rate is 24%, sometimes higher. Do the full math on that loan. It may end up paying $14, $0 or $15,000 total for a car worth $4,000 before the loan is even paid off. And there's a strong chance that car breaks down before they finish paying for it. So now they're still making payments on a dead vehicle while trying to figure out how to finance another one. This is the poverty premium at full scale. You're not just paying for a car. You're paying a risk premium, a surcharge that society imposes on people has already decided are risky. And the only way to stop being labeled risky is to have money, which you can't accumulate because you're spending it all on the risk premium. It is a loop engineered to keep you exactly where you started. Housing, paying to own, nothing renting versus owning, is the most expensive version of the boots theory that most people will ever experience when you rent. 100% of your monthly payment builds someone else's equity. Your landlord's mortgage gets paid down. The property appreciates. You get nothing except the right to keep paying next month. To buy a house, you need a down payment. In most markets, that's $15,000, $20,000, maybe $30,000. But if you're spending 40% or 50% of your take-home income on rent, which millions of Americans are, you can't accumulate that down payment. The rent is too high. The savings rate is too low. The math doesn't work. So you keep renting at $2,000 a month for a property that, if you owned it, might cost $1,200 a month in mortgage payments. You're paying $800 extra every single month for the privilege of owning nothing. The person who could afford the down payment buys the house. Their monthly cost goes down. Their net worth goes up every year as the property appreciates. Meanwhile, you're paying more monthly, gaining zero equity, and watching your landlord get richer. You're not just renting an apartment. You are renting your stability. You're renting your shelter. You're renting access to money through credit card interest. Your entire financial existence is a lease you can never convert to ownership. The time tax, there's one more dimension of the poverty premium that doesn't get measured in dollars, but absolutely should. It gets measured in hours. Consider the laundromat. If you have a washer and dryer at home, doing laundry is a 5-minute task. You load it, walk away, come back. If you have to go to a laundromat, that's $5 in quarters, plus travel time, plus the hour you sit there waiting, plus travel back. It is a loop engineered to keep you exactly where you started. Housing, paying to own, nothing renting versus owning, is the most expensive version of the boots theory that most people will ever experience when you rent. 100% of your monthly payment builds someone else's equity. Your landlord's mortgage gets paid down. The property appreciates. You get nothing except the right to keep paying next month. To buy a house, you need a down payment. In most markets, that's $15, $0, $20,000, maybe $30,000. But if you're spending 40% or 50% of your take-home income on rent, which millions of Americans are, you can't accumulate that down payment. The rent is too high. The savings rate is too low. The math doesn't work. So you keep renting at $2,000 a month for a property that, if you owned it, might cost $1,200 a month in mortgage payments. You're paying $800 extra every single month for the privilege of owning nothing. The person who could afford the down payment buys the house. Their monthly cost goes down. Their net worth goes up every year as the property appreciates. Meanwhile, you're paying more monthly, gaining zero equity, and watching your landlord get richer. You're not just renting an apartment, you are renting your stability. You're renting your shelter. You're renting access to money through credit card interest. Your entire financial existence is a lease you can never convert to ownership. The time tax, there's one more dimension of the poverty premium that doesn't get measured in dollars, but absolutely should. It gets measured in hours. Consider the laundromat. If you have a washer and dryer at home, doing laundry is a 5-minute task. You load it, walk away, come back. If you have to go to a laundromat, that's $5 in quarters, plus travel time, plus the hour you sit there waiting, plus travel back. Call it 2 hours of your life every single week. Value your time at minimum wage, just $7.25 an hour, and that laundry trip costs $14.50 in time, plus $5 in quarters, nearly $20 every week for laundry. Or consider food desserts. If you live in a lower income neighborhood, you may not have a full grocery store nearby. You have a convenience store with prices marked up 30% to 50% of supermarket rates. To get to a real grocery store, you might need bus fare plus an hour each way. That cheap grocery run just costs you 2 hours, and a bus fare is on top of the food. The friction of daily life is higher when you don't have money. Every task takes longer. Every errand costs more. And every hour you spend navigating that friction is an hour you're not spending earning, resting, learning, or building something. Poverty doesn't just steal your money. It steals your time. And time, unlike money, can never be recovered. The dental cavity principle here is one more example, and this one's personal for a lot of people. You have a small cavity. Filling costs $150. You don't have $150, so you wait. 6 months later, cavity has become an infection. Now you need a root canal and a crown. Cost $1,800. And because the infection has been sitting there untreated, you've been dealing with chronic low-grade pain that's been affecting your sleep, your concentration, and your productivity at work. A $150 problem just became a $1,800 problem plus months of avoidable suffering because the capital to address it early wasn't there. This happens with car maintenance, with roof leaks, with legal issues, with health problems, with every single situation where catching something small early is cheap and letting it grow is catastrophic. The poverty premium isn't just about buying cheap things repeatedly. It's about being unable to prevent the expensive version of every problem because you don't have the buffer to address problems while they're still small. All right. I know this has been heavy. I know what some of you are thinking. This is depressing. You're telling me the system is rigged against me and there's nothing I can do. That's not what I'm telling you. What I'm telling you is that understanding the mechanics is the only way to find the exit. Most people suffer through these penalties their entire lives without ever naming them, without ever seeing the pattern. You can't attack something you can't see. Now you can see it. So let's talk about how to fight back. The emergency fund is not boring. It's a weapon every financial influencer tells you to build an emergency fund. Most people roll their eyes. It sounds slow. It sounds unsexy. It sounds like advice for people who already have money. But here's what an emergency fund actually does. It destroys the poverty premium. When you have $1, zero in a separate savings account that you don't touch, the entire math of your financial life changes. A flat tire is an annoyance, not a payday loan. A check engine light is something you address immediately. For $300, not something you ignore until it becomes a $2,500 transmission replacement. A forgotten subscription overdraft. becomes an inconvenience you can cover, not a $35 fee that wipes out a week of coffee money. And here's the part that's almost poetic. Having that $1,000 buffer actually lowers your monthly expenses. You can increase your insurance deductible because you can cover a small claim yourself, which reduces your monthly premium. You can buy bulk. You can handle maintenance before it becomes emergency. Repair. Having money saves you money. First $1,000 is the hardest money you will ever save. It is also the most powerful. It's the switch that flips you from defense to offense. Stop thinking in payments. Start thinking in total cost of ownership. The financial industry wants you focused on monthly payments. They want you asking, can I afford $250 a month? Instead of, what does this actually cost me over 4 years? Because when you think in monthly payments, a $15,000 loan at 24% interest feels manageable. When you think in total cost of ownership, you realize you're paying $20 to $1,000 for something worth $1,000. Start applying this thinking to everything. The $10 razor that you replace monthly versus the $35 safety razor that lasts a lifetime and uses 10-cent blades. The $10 boots every year versus the $50 boots that last a decade. The $4 for pack of toilet paper versus the $50 Costco run. Every purchase is either a long-term investment or a recurring tax. Train yourself to see the difference. Audit your vampire costs. Here's your actual homework from this video. Sit down tonight, not this weekend, tonight, and do one thing. Audit your life for what I call vampire costs. Expenses that exist specifically because you don't have enough money to eliminate them. Are you paying a high car insurance premium because you can't afford a higher deductible? Are you paying 20% interest on a credit card balance that you're only making minimum payments on? Are you buying single serve anything? Single rolls? Single packs? Single portions because bulk is out of reach? Are you paying late fees on bills because your paycheck timing is off? Are you maintaining a subscription to a bank account that charges you monthly fees? Write them down. Total them up. That number, whatever it is, that is your poverty premium. That is the tax you are paying simply for not having Apple, Naupus, the one that, if fixed, will have the most downstream impact. Then cut everything to single biggest leak. Not all of them. Non-essential until you have the cash to plug that specific leak. Sell things. Pick up extra hours. Do a weekend of gig work. Not because it'll make you rich, but because it's a surgical strike against a future expense that's currently bleeding you out. Change the frame. You're not saving. You're buying your freedom. The final mindset shift, and this is the one that actually sticks, is to stop thinking about saving money as deprivation and start thinking about it as purchasing your way out of the trap. When you skip the new shoes to fix your car properly, you are buying freedom from a future breakdown. When you make an extra payment on your high-interest debt, you are buying back the percentage of your income that was going to interest. When you build that $1,000 buffer, you are buying the right to never pay a $35 overdraft fee again. You are buying your way out of the boots theory, one decision at a time. And here's the truth nobody tells you about this journey. It's not linear. It doesn't feel like progress for a long time. The wind is absolutely in your face at the start. Going from $0 to $10,000 in savings is 10 times harder, emotionally and practically, than going from $10,000 to $100,000. But the reason it's harder isn't because you're bad with money. It's because the system charges you more for starting with less. Now you know that. And knowing it means you can stop blaming yourself and start attacking the penalties instead. You stop paying their game, the overdraft game, the payday loan game, the bulk buying locked out game, and you start playing yours. Buy the boots that last. Build the buffer that protects you. Fix the small thing before it becomes the catastrophic thing. And little by little, you walk out of the trap. If you saw yourself in any part of this video, do me a favor and share it with someone who needs to hear it. We don't talk about this stuff enough. We celebrate the wins. We ignore the traps. Subscribe so you never miss a video where we pull back the curtain on exactly how this stuff works. See you next time.